Greetings, bloggers, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty with another vlog. If you haven't met me before, my name's Dustin. I'm autistic. I'm in my late 30s, and I've been living independently for over 6 years now, living the dream of being a person, or just a person basically, who is autistic and has other mental health challenges, but living life and the day to day and sharing my story and my journey and some of the things that I've experienced in my lifetime. So here we are. It's been a busy week. It's been slightly challenging, nothing overly powering on my end. It's just seemed that this week has been, if it could go wrong, it would go wrong. Um, I think, last week we talked a little bit about one of our bridges in town is opening. It's been closed all year. We have two bridges in my town, one over the notorious river that it is known for, and it is opening on Tuesday. So, in anticipation of that, there's been some road work, some construction. There's been some incidences, that sort of thing that's really blocked traffic. So it's resulted in some late arrivals after a long day out. And it's just seemed like, when things have their issues, they do. And I'm grateful that I've been mentally prepared for those things to happen and that I take care of myself so that, I know that to adapt when necessary. Not that it hasn't been easy, but it's what it is, and you have to be willing to adapt. But that's not really why I come to talk to you today, although I've had a pretty good week on some notions before I move on. Um, I had good lab results, which is always an awesome thing. Um, you know, and things are somewhat turning, they're somewhat getting better for me, and I'm learning how to manage life as who I am. We've had the presidential election, and while I'm not going to delve into that, people have their emotions, and that's their thing. But I'm coming out of it very well, and willing to accept and move on, because that's what we do as a country and as a people. But this week I've been thinking, I guess, about what to talk about, and I think it hit home to me this week. I was able to attend the PATC conference. It's PATC. It's the Pennsylvania Autism Training Conference. Last few years, it's been held virtual, and I've never really got to go and really partake of the sessions. If you're a self-advocate and live in Pennsylvania, I strongly encourage attendance. If you have the time, it's free. Um, it was able to see the recordings, and if I didn't wasn't able to go at the time that the sessions happened, but there were some sessions that I was able to take privilege in, and I was really grateful for that. Um, One in particular, that was really, I don't even know what the name of it is at this point, but it was very intriguing. Like, how do you support people? And, what kind of supports does it look like for a person who is autistic, like myself? And, I think about things, I think, you know, when we do things that as an autistic person, as somebody who's been diagnosed over 2 decades, things that may be a little more acceptable today aren't necessarily, or that are more understood. I wouldn't say as acceptable. I would say more understood, or more willing to be understood for what they were. Nowadays as compared in the past. They're part of a thing. They're part of what I would call, under accepting autism for what it is. And they were giving an example at this workshop. There's a gentleman, his name is Dr. Stephen Shore, and he's an autistic individual himself. But he had presented when they had the conferences in person a few years ago, and he had said he had to wear his ball cap when he presented at the conference because he was sensitive to the lights. And it got me thinking, about the things that we as autistic people ask for accommodations and being willing to adapt in a world that is not often made for us as autistic people, and that we have to learn to adapt. And sometimes we need a little extra help. One big thing for me is the use of headphones. You'll see I have them on now, but pretty much I have to have them in my moments when I need to take my energy or my focus off of things that I can't control or that bring energy, unwanted energy for me, that I don't want to be a part of, or I don't want or I need to be able to cope in my very own way so that I don't react negatively to a situation that I cannot control, and that if I would react negatively, it would only emulsify the event at hand without me realizing that it's not me that may have been the problem initially, but by me doing that, um, it causes more of a ruckus. And even though I would experience a meltdown or something similar to that, it could very well be prevented by using the necessary coping devices and mechanisms that I need to be able to take care of things. And I think that is something that speaks volumes. I think being able to know when you need to step away from something because it's a little much is another thing. Now, life is life. We can't change some things in life that are part of what they are, but if we have the opportunity to step away from what when we to step away from the things that we know we can avoid in order to protect ourselves from reacting negatively, having a meltdown, etc., then why would you not do that? I'll give you an example of that. Um, this week I realized I needed to be alone for a little bit at my day services, so I went and I was alone, and it doesn't really seem as bad as it is, but I wasn't really any negative energy. I was just bored, and I was really struggling to find where I needed to land for the remainder of the day. And I had done all my task, and I had, had some downtime, and things were done. And so I took that time for me to relax and re get back on track from the instances that I was in, and be able to get through the day successfully without an issue. And in that same vein, I have also developed a strategy for when the primary area is being used, and that a more, well, not perfect, but doable area could be used in that instance. So I think, having that win-win and developing plans and knowing how maybe sometimes you need to do those things. Maybe sometimes you need to step aside from things. Sometimes you may need to put the headphones on. Those things, kind of work, and they kind of help. And, there's things that even though it may not look normal to many, and I hate using that word, I really do. But in not looking things that don't look traditional. Let's just use that word. If they don't look traditional, that's not really accepting autism for what it is. And we have shifted the narrative in the last few years from awareness to acceptance, but yet sometimes people think differently of what acceptance is, and even if there's more prevalence than what acceptance is. Um, we learn to adapt. And I think for me personally, when we talk about acceptance and that it's okay to take care of ourselves as autistic folk and, do the things that we need to do to help us, get through the challenges in life that is in the life uh, that's not made for us. And learning that it's okay. I think that's the big thing with me. I think, I know to do X, Y, Z, but there's a part of me that has this reservation or this feeling that it's not okay to do what I need to do to be able to cope with the challenges that are bothering me because growing up, we didn't do those things. We didn't put headphones on. We didn't have the technology that we have today. We couldn't Bluetooth music in. We couldn't take care of ourselves in the way we needed to because we weren't educated about autism in the way it was. And I say that a lot because back in the 90s, well, late 90s, when I was diagnosed, when we finally figured out after running the diagnosis acronym alphabet of the 90s, figuring out where I really fell in life. When we got the Asperger's diagnosis back in 98, we there was very little education, and you just did what you did. And things that we knew were issues, I think autistic masking was the way that I dealt with them. And it had built my tolerance up. But even as we get into 2024, we're learning so much more about the things that autistic people struggle with, and that it's okay to do things that may not seem traditional, like wearing headphones and having coping devices or fidget devices or just things that help us. And and when there should be no shame in having set items that help us or that you know make us get through the day to day without causing a negative reaction or a meltdown. And for me, it's taken me a long time to understand that those things are okay, and I'm still struggling at that. But it really hit home for some reason when they mentioned Dr. Stephen Shore at the conference this week online, that he wore the ball cap, even though that was not a traditional attire in a conference, but he needed that to get through the lighting because the lighting is so intense for him that he that was how he helped. And headphones are really my life. I mean, it's not that I know I put a lot of target on the headphones, but they are my life. They help me get through things like the day to day riding the buses, dealing with situations where there's a lot of energy involved, where I have to be able to run my own vibe and not have a problem. And learning how to navigate that into the daily milieu where you're running your daily activity, and learning how to best accommodate that with your work needs and your day services needs and any other needs in the public eye that really make it work for you. And I think that's the thing. It's doing what I need to do as a human being and seeing that it's okay. And a few weeks ago also, we had talked about, I had went to this fall festival. I wouldn't call it a fall festival, but one of the local theme parks, amusement parks, whatever you want to call it, has a fall thing where it's like for Halloween. And being around screaming children, I shouldn't say screaming, but you know what I mean, like loud children is not my vibe. And although my family did want me to go, I didn't know that it was okay to wear headphones in that public venue because I never done that. I mean, I've went to this venue for almost 4 decades, but we never wore headphones because that wasn't something that was acceptable growing up, or that family understood. And I think more and more our family understands it more. And I think it's just my hesitance, my resistance, because I don't feel kind of that it's okay even though I know it is. There's this hesitation, there's this reservation that it's even though I know I can do it, in many environments that don't involve family or people that I have a history with that I don't necessarily feel 100% comfortable with. But environments where it's become a practice, let's say the bus, for example, day services, work in the new building, those things are okay, and I can adapt to using those items in those places. But when it comes to doing old traditional things with family and things, because I've always been expected to be condone myself to conduct myself in a way that it's always been who I was, but we've never had said conversation over in 3.5 whatever decades that it's okay. And recently we did have that conversation, and understanding that it is okay, and that family understands that need, and that things have to be that way, and family actually helps with those things. They supply the music, whatever. They introduce me to new music, things of that nature that make it more manageable, more successful, and things like that. It's a progress. It happens. It works in its own way, but it happens. And sometimes we talk about things that help us, but there are also the things that kind of get in the way, that aren't necessarily kosher or necessarily appropriate. And I think there's a boundary that needs to be established, understood, etc. And when we're talking autistic people, there may not be an understanding of what it may be more gray. There may, as composed to the concrete thinking method that I have, there may be more gray as far as what is appropriate and what is not, and that just because I do it, it's okay, and I'm not going to get caught with my hand in the cookie jar. It's going to be okay. But we've advanced so much in the world with understanding the nature of things that it's some things are just aren't understood, and there's social norms and societal norms that just aren't understood. And to make things work better for us, it may be employing those devices so that we know we don't act on those things that we know are going to hurt us in the end, or are going to make things worse for us. So, it's a catch-22 when it comes to that. And, I'm hoping that, things get better as time goes on, and that, but you have to do what you need to do to be successful, and to thrive out in the community and have the quality of life that every human being deserves, regardless of, what supports they need, or, what challenges they face. Everybody deserves to have a life that has quality, and that they can thrive in. And if it's so, that needs to be that you need things that don't look traditional, then it is what it is. So I want to close with that today, because I think that was very important. A topic that's been on my mind a few days, and I appreciate you listening through that. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm near 100 subscribers. I thank each and every one of them. I thank all the new ones that have been joining. We really appreciate it. If you haven't already, be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Pinterest. That handle is Dustin's Dynasty. I'm on the web. That address is www.dustinsdynastyusa.com. And lastly, I'm on Linktree with all my socials, all my podcast platforms, all that. And that handle is Dustin's Dynasty. Again, I want to thank you. Take care of yourselves this weekend. To all the veterans, thank you for your service, including my father, who is in the veterans home. He's doing okay, but I just want to say thank you to all the veterans, and have a good weekend, everybody. Take care.